If you're watching this video, then you're probably on a YouTube bender trying to soak up as much information as you can about moving to East Tennessee. Now, I'm a local realtor here, but I'm going to do this video based off of the feedback I've gotten from the families that I've helped move to and away from East Tennessee. So one of the biggest positives that I hear from my clients, they really like that there's kind of a little bit of everything here in East Tennessee. So you can be a little bit more country and outdoorsy, you can be a little bit more city, you can be healthy, you can eat fried chicken, you can live in the mountains, you can live on the lake, you can live in a high rise. There's really just a lot of opportunity for everyone here. Now, for myself personally, I kind of like to dabble in a little bit of everything. So like a normal weekend for me could look like this. One day I could go up into the Smokies, do a little fly fishing, just really enjoying nature, soaking in all the beauty and everything like that. And then the next day, my wife and I might drive 30 minutes up to Knoxville. We might go to downtown into like Market Square, something like that, and just kind of walk around and then eat some really good food, enjoy their little shops and stuff like that, and maybe even have a few adult beverages at some really sweet local spots. But the great thing is that you can really enjoy very different environments all within probably a 30-minute drive of your home. And so that does bring me to one of the biggest concerns that I hear from people, especially when they're in town visiting and things like that, if this is their first time, and that's the curvy roads. Okay, now not all of our roads are curvy, but because of the way that Tennessee is laid out, and because of the fact that we don't really have good public transportation here, you're going to find yourself driving around a lot. And that doesn't mean that you're going to be driving, hours away or anything like that, but you might have a 5 to 10 minute drive here and then a 10 to 20 minute drive here. And eventually you're going to find yourself, on some back roads, and you might be asking yourself, like, how in the heck are all these people driving so fast through these curvy, windy roads? And the answer is simple and it's easy. It's just that, we've been doing it our whole life, and I've been talking with, some of my past clients to do this video. And it seems like the general consensus is this: the more you do it, the more you get familiar with it, and the more familiar you are with it, the more comfortable you are, and then it kind of becomes just like a non-issue. Now, with that being said, you certainly still need to be very careful, whenever the weather is poor, because, curvy roads and bad weather just don't really mix very well. And so speaking of weather, that is certainly something that we get asked a lot of, is the weather in Tennessee. And it's funny, we kind of have a saying here, and I'm pretty sure that everyone has the same saying, but if you don't like the weather, wait an hour and it'll probably change. We've had days this year where it's been like 60, 65, really nice, and then the next day it snows. It's just crazy. But as far as weather goes, you really don't have anything to fear. We do have some summer storms, so like if you're out on the lake enjoying the water and stuff like that, certainly be careful of lightning. We definitely get a lot of rain here, so flooding can be an issue, but the good thing is that the counties and the cities are used to dealing with that, so we have a lot of different systems set in place to help from any major issues occurring. One of those things, so you might notice if you're driving around East Tennessee in the wintertime, is the lake levels will be lower. So TVA, as a precaution, they go ahead and drop the lake levels to accommodate for the winter rain season. The wintertime is when we get our biggest flood season here, and so they drop the water levels to help prevent flooding. And speaking of wintertime, a lot of people want to know about snow in East Tennessee. And I tell everybody, it's one of those things that we get just enough snow to be excited about it. So like we might get like 2 or 3 decent snows a year, and a decent snow here would be like 2, maybe 3 inches. A really good snow would be like 6 inches. And honestly, that only happens every few years. I don't even remember the last time we got that much snow. In fact, this last winter was very mild. We just got a few dustings. But one thing that you will catch on to especially, and this is probably anywhere in the South, but whenever there is snow in the forecast, a lot of companies will, shut down. And that doesn't mean all of them. You'll still be able to get your groceries, you'll be able to get gas, all that good stuff. But there'll definitely be, some places that close down because of snow. Schools are very quick to pull the trigger on shutting school down. And I mean, you might have a day where your kid's out of school and there's not an ounce of snow anywhere. And that's just because they have to be really careful, because we do have some very curvy roads, and because of, buses and things like that, they have to, they kind of have to act quickly so that, so that they don't put any kids in danger. So just keep that in mind. That's probably why, your kids are sitting at home with nothing to do and the weather's just fine. Something else I get asked a lot about, and I'm not really entirely sure where this comes from. I assume people have Googled it, but tornadoes. A lot of people ask me, well, what do you guys do during tornadoes? Honestly, I don't worry about tornadoes. I've lived here my whole life. I've never seen one. I don't know anyone who's ever been affected by one. I certainly have heard of them touching down and different things like that. But tornadoes aren't really even in the top 100 things that I would be worried about when I'm personally buying a house. Now, I do know that if you move west of Rockwood, Tennessee, which I kind of consider west of Rockwood sort of getting into that middle Tennessee area. Rockwood for me is kind of the cutoff on eastern Tennessee, and then you start getting into middle Tennessee. Now, Middle Tennessee flattens out a lot. It's much flatter than East Tennessee, and that's where you're going to have things like Tornado Alley, which kind of goes through Crossville. That is where you're really getting into like a lot more tornadoes, and where you maybe need to be thinking about, different things like maybe like a tornado cellar or something like that. But me personally, I live in just a rancher style home. I don't have any kind of tornado protection, and maybe that'll be dumb of me, at some point down the road. But like I said, it's just not something that me or most locals worry about. So other than that, there's really nothing to worry about, other than the blistering hot summer. So, maybe make plans to find some water to jump into. So moving on, something else I get asked a lot about is, community and how to get involved and things like that. I know other places have like these big, neighborhood communities. You have like your 55 and up neighborhoods. Other than a few places like Tellico Village, we really don't have a whole lot of that here. Now, within your neighborhoods, you're certainly going to have like, big Halloween events. You might have a few, cookouts and things like that. But for the most part, my clients are finding the most success in getting community through different like churches and organizations that they're making themselves a part of. So I would say, if you're someone who's really looking for that community, maybe start like looking at different groups and things like that to figure out, what you and your family want to be a part of, and reach out and just sort of implant yourself into that. I mean, Tennesseans for the most part are very welcoming people. So, if you wanted to, join a church or an organization or something like that, I'm sure they would be happy to have you. So along with community, a lot of people are asking about, culture and traditions. And although our culture and traditions may be a little bit different than what you may be used to, there certainly is a lot of that here. Again, it kind of just comes down to, what groups and organizations, or clubs that you want to be a part of. But again, there's a lot of different things you can do and you can involve yourself in. Tennessee is obviously a conservative state. We're in the Bible Belt, so there's a lot of culture and tradition around that. We're more of a country state, so you're going to have a lot of culture and tradition around hunting, fishing, farming. You might have some tractor pulls. You might have some deer camps. You might have some fishing clubs. The Bassmaster Classic comes to town every year, and that's always kind of a bigger event. We also love our Vols here. So on Fridays and Saturdays, if you don't love the color orange, you better get used to it, because there's going to be a lot of that going around. And if you want to see something just really cool, man, go to Neyland Stadium on a game day. I mean, it's an unreal environment, and it's cool too because there's a lot there for different people. So like you could have like a very family friendly tailgate over here, you know, and down the road you might have a more wild and crazy, you know, tailgate. You know, some people maybe partaking in some adult beverages, maybe some chicken wings going on. But you know, there's good environments for both there. And you know, the tradition behind Tennessee football, especially, and even women's basketball, you know, there's a lot of tradition there as well. And then something else that we have a lot of, you know, culture and tradition around is like cars and motorcycles. You know, there's a big scene here for that. You know, every year, multiple times throughout the year up in Sevierville, they have the rod runs, and the rod runs are super cool. I mean, there's just so many people and so many cars. It's insane. If you're a car person, boy, that is the place for you. That is a cool little event. There's also the Dragon, which is huge for both motorcycles and cars. You know, people drive from all over the world to come drive through the Dragon. And I'll tell you this, if you're one of those people that are concerned about curvy roads, stay your butt off the Dragon, because that thing's insane. I can't remember how many curves it is, but it's 11 miles of just this. It's crazy. But you know, the cool thing about it is that you get a lot of really beautiful scenery. You get a lot of just really nice days. And I think that all kind of has a lot to do with why there's so much tradition and culture around that here in East Tennessee. It's just because, you know, again, most days of the year, you can really get out and enjoy your vehicles. You can go out and drive through places like the Parkway, through Townsend, you know, the Dragon, and you can like really see some beautiful things. And you also kind of have the cool little curvy roads, you know, so I know that people that like to, you know, drive around like that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that here as well. You know, and I always tell people, like, look, if you're, you know, trying to find, you know, culture and traditions and things like that you want to get you and your family involved in, sort of the same thing with community, you know, just sort of reach out to people. You know, I started fly fishing about 2 or 3 years ago, and I just went around to the different fly shops and started talking to the guys, and you know, they were very willing to help me. They have different events and things like that. Like they'll have like a fly tying night. They'll have different people come and speak about different things. I'm also into archery, so I go down to my local bow shop and they have something they call a redneck night, and it's where everyone gets together and you do like a 3D shoot, and it's a ton of fun. But you meet a lot of people that way, and then once you start meeting people, you can kind of get into, you know, their little clubs and join their little cultures and you know, different things like that. So yeah, hopefully you'll be able to find what you want. Again, Tennesseans are very accepting, and I think that you wouldn't have a problem at all with doing that. And then the last thing that I want to talk with you guys about is the cost of living here in East Tennessee. So the cost of living has certainly gone up a little bit, but still, all in all, it's good. We're 15% lower than the national average as far as cost of living goes. Our property taxes are very low. They're a median price of about $1,300 a year. We don't have a state income tax, which is really nice. And then our sales taxes are just under 10%. So I know that's still a little bit higher than most places, but it's really not too terrible. But the bad side of the cost of living here is that, you know, our wages aren't as high. So, you know, that's something that's kind of a shocker to my people that move here from like California or New York or Florida. You know, our average salary here is $45,000 a year. Another thing too is that our medium home price, our housing prices, like everywhere else, have just kind of, you know, skyrocketed. Right now we're at about a median sales price of $325, but I can say most people, especially if you're looking for a bigger house, you're going to probably be a little bit above that. So, you know, all in all, it's still the, you know, 15% lower than the national average. So it's still a very good place to live, very safe place, all that good stuff. That's going to do it for this video. I hope that y'all have found this helpful. If you have any questions, I'll link my information down below and probably on the screen somewhere. So feel free to just reach out to me with any questions you have, but thanks for watching. I'll catch y'all next time. Bye.